Now, for a more in-depth look at that story, we have with us Dr. Kim Chang-su from the Korea Institute of Defense Analyses. Dr. Kim, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, President Trump has said for several days now that the time and place for the North Korea summit has been finalized. And there are more reports coming from Seoul as well that an announcement is imminent. But it seems like we've been waiting for days now. I mean, do you think there's been a delay, and why do you think it's being held up?
I think there's definitely delays, and maybe there'll be another delay because North Korea is increasingly disappointed because there are tough demands, increasing demands from Washington. And because to these not just CVID, but PVI, the permanent dismantling of their weapons and nuclear material and other WMDs. This is actually amounts to a virtual surrender of North Korea. And this is a total disarmament on the part of the North Korean leadership. That's why, for one thing, North Korea really, after long thought, after second thought, they have a different idea. Okay, it's much better if we just delay this meeting with Mr. Trump rather than having just into one or 2 weeks from today. So that's why the delay has been not just on the U.S. scheme, but it's also the different ideas by the Pyongyang leadership that it might be better to have deferred this meeting a little bit later so that they can have a maximum profits out of this deal. So another very important factor is, I think, the Chinese intervention. Because after all, China is becoming pretty much supportive of North Korean regime because instead of PVID or CVID, Chinese approach of kind of gradual, synchronized approach to dismantling North Korean nuclear weapons to them is much more reasonable, much more realistic. So they are supportive of North Korea's position vis-a-vis this kind of dismantling. So that's why, as I told you, Mr. Trump, there's a report in Mr. Kim visiting Mr. Xi Jinping again in Dalian. I don't know whether this is true or not so far, but this indicates that there is increasing kind of interest on the part of the Beijing leadership that we might intervene in this matter because this will have a tremendous impact not only on the North Korean leadership but also on us because we are a part to the Korean War, and if there is a new peace regime on the Korean Peninsula, North Korea and China should be a part to them. So that's why the China factor is another important one. And finally, of course, Mr. Trump has his own personality that he doesn't want to be sidelined. He always wants to be put on the center stage. So that's why he's just speculating all kind of different cities, including even Bangkok. I was surprised to hear there another important city, Singapore, and But I think this is, Singapore is it's not a good location for us because this is talking about the South, the ending to the Korean War and new peace regime on the peninsula. That should be on the peninsula. That's why Mr. Trump said there is no other, more representative and more kind of important, more lasting place than a third country venue. I think Panmunjom is much more, this is really representative and important and very lasting place than a third country venue that is including Singapore and Bangkok. So I think Mr. Kim, because my interpretation of this, Mr. Trump doesn't want to play a kind of sequel to the inter-Korean summit meeting, which was a real success. So he wants to play a very different role by staging having another stage in a third country rather than in Seoul. So this is something there must be something going on behind the scenes between Pyongyang and Washington. And this time there's a China factor, the Pyongyang factor, and also the Trump factors, of course. Yes.
So that's where your money is on then?
That's right.
For the inter-Korean summit, the location?
That's right.
Okay. So let's go back to that North Korea and the US, the rhetoric they've been giving over the weekend. So over the weekend, the North State media issued a commentary against the US, and I'm reading here, paraphrasing. The US is misleading the public opinion, saying that sanctions and pressure led to North Korea wanting to denuclearize. The US is deliberately provoking North Korea, and it would not be conducive if the US miscalculates the peace-loving intention of North Korea as a sign of weakness. Now, at the same time, the US issued a statement calling for PVID, as you said, permanent, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization. That's a step up from the previously saying complete denuclearization. How should we take these two statements? How should we take these two sentiments? I mean, is it a sign that the summit is being delayed?
Oh, I think we have to make it very clear. All the criticism that has been voiced by Pyongyang leadership quite recently, yesterday and today, is not actually U.S. government official position, I believe. It is all the pundits in Washington and even in the punditry in South Korea that was criticizing, North Korea was negotiating from this position of weakness rather than this strength. And there were signs that this kind of sanctions will continue on until North Korea finally agrees to coming to the negotiating table for a CVID or PVID. And this is something that cannot be accepted by the North Korean leadership. But so far, going back to your position, this is rather than, it's not just it's not, I think to be sure it is not the U.S. government position because United States has not made that kind of claims or counter proposals yet. So it is all the punditry in Washington and in Seoul that North Korea was coming to this kind of inter-Korean summit meeting in the first place. Because they have a kind of inferiority complex and they have many things to gain from the South Korea. But now this time they're looking for some other meetings. So this kind of, this is North Korea's hostility to the United States for the last 40 years has been the same thing. There's no easing of tensions. There's no easing of sanctions by the United States. And so that's why North Korea is very angry. And this is probably one of the reasons why they are delaying this, instead of just saying yes to Mr. Trump's proposal that we hold this meeting here and there and on what time. But I think this is, after second thought, they believe this must not be in their best interest, hold this kind of early meeting with Mr. Trump, given all the kinds of criticism coming from Washington and also some kind of concerns. Even I don't, maybe inner of his power circle, there's some people claim, we might be a kind of falling a victim to this kind of trap. I think it's a figure to be like a Trojan horse that has been, in two capitals, Seoul, in Washington, and so I don't know. There must be a lot of reasons why North Korea has changed its positions, not just internally, but vis-a-vis the United States. Okay, let me give a serious thought to the second thought to this one, because now we have a lot of advice coming from Beijing, particularly, and because they're giving all the full support of Pyongyang's position vis-a-vis. And Mr. Kim, and here in South Korea, we have a very good and relatively good government in their own right, that we are willing to help them out of their kind of economic poverty, and we are willing to advance our relations with the North Korean leadership, with North Korea as a whole, with all kind of summit meetings, working level meetings, or ministerial meetings, and also the reunion of separate families. So given all these kind of new good things they can get from Seoul and also coming from Beijing, so because Mr. Trump is so continues to tough on us, not Mr. Tough, but some other punditries on all the people in Washington, because they are very negative. I was told that about 70% of Washington pundits, they are very negative about the upcoming summit meeting between Kim and Trump. So this is a reality we are facing in Washington. So given this kind of situation, North Korea might conclude that we might get very less to gain from this meeting with Mr. Trump, but many more things to lose from Mr. Trump's meeting. So I think that's why they're delaying this summit meeting with Mr. Trump, and probably this is one of their tactics to raise their ante to get much more concession from the upcoming meeting with Mr. Trump.
Well, I guess trust on either side is hard-earned, especially after all these years. Now, putting into this mix, there's a recent development. The reports of coming out that Kim Jong-un, as you mentioned earlier, might have traveled to Dalian in China to meet with Chinese officials, possibly even with President Xi Jinping himself again. Do you think he might be there?
I have no way to confirm that, but the reasons, the chances are pretty good, because China and North Korea finally find another reason why they have to maintain a very good relationship with all the very tough demands from Washington and even Japan. And so I think this makes perfect sense for the Kim Jong-un leadership to go to, I don't know, Dalian or not, because there was a kind of launching of a second aircraft carrier in Dalian. So there's a perfect kind of timing and perfect venue for the two leadership, Chinese and North Korean leaders, to meet and talk about what kind of strategy we should develop from now on, because we are facing a very strong demands and very pressure from Washington This also applies to Beijing as well, because trade war, and so I think this probably this kind of emergence, the convergence of these two leaders' interests vis-a-vis North United States. So it's quite likely, but we have to just wait 1 or 2 more days to count whether this was a reality or not.
Sure. Maybe preparing teamwork for the upcoming summit with the US.
That's right.
So tomorrow, there's the Trilateral meeting between South Korea, Japan, and China. It's happening in Tokyo. The main headline topic, again, is going to be North Korea. But what are the details do you think they'll be discussing? What are the 3 countries wanting from this trilateral meeting?
You know, Tokyo has maintained a very continued diplomacy vis-a-vis North Korea for many years. The number 1 priority, abduction issue. Second one comes North Korean nuclear. And third one, North Korean missiles. But this time, this will be a trilateral, not just the bilateral meetings. So 3. So I think the top priority will be definitely how we are going to dismantle or denuclearize North Korean WMDs. And also, according to the Japanese views and media, the other WMDs, biochemical weapons, should be included on our agenda. So this is something probably that will top our agenda tomorrow in Tokyo. But when it comes to abduction issue, because we have a different views and Chinese have a different views, because it is more a kind of more Japanese domestic issue rather than international issue. Anyway, this Tokyo really wants to put this kind of abduction issue as a kind of variable, important factor that should be discussed among any meetings, bilateral, trilateral, or even 6-party talks later on. So there will be a very tough time discussing on these issues, but they're going to really to put all these issues on the table. They will discuss deeply, but it is very difficult to reach any kind of consensus because we have so different national interests and approach to solving these kind of diplomatic issues.
Just quickly then, before we go, say a rough date of when do you think the US summit could be?
Many people speculate that sometime to make a second week of June or something, because if you look at the calendars, like G7 meeting, and also we have in the first week of June, we are going to Asian Security Summit. I've been there, Singapore many times. So every time, I don't know exactly because who's coming from Washington. There used to be a defense minister and president himself. So we had a Chinese Xi Jinping, but this, I don't know. I didn't chance to look at all the agenda and participants of the ASSS for this year. But if the media attention will be, the world media will be in Singapore, definitely. That's the first week of June. And you are going to have on the second and third week of June, we are going to G7 meeting in Canada, right? So in between, those two are most ideal and most probable dates for the North Korea-U.S. summit meeting. But after that, because of conflict in schedule, it'll be deferred for many more months. I don't know. Maybe they'll come up with a different rationale why we would better see a kind of deferred meeting rather than early meeting in some time like June. So it depends on how Beijing will or Pyongyang will react to the Washington's proposal, which is a PVID. VVID is just more tough than the CVID. So they are just giving a second thought, and probably they're maybe talking each other behind the scenes, and they will, if they don't announce any meetings on a fixed date, it's okay. It's their job to do that, because after long thought, they have to come up with the best best timing for the very historic summit meeting.
Well, that's what we have time for. Thank you for coming in today, Professor Kim. It's always good to have you with us.
My pleasure.